Hello, and it's nice to see you all again. I'm Deshawn Whitaker, We the People teacher in Charles County Public Schools in Maryland. My colleagues will introduce themselves, and then we'll ask you to introduce yourselves and your teacher.
And my name is Joe Stewart. I teach in the Political Science Department at Clemson University in South Carolina.
Hi, I'm Diana Owen. I'm Professor of Political Science at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
All right, and please introduce yourselves and your teacher.
Hi, my name is Trinity Daly. We attend Bumpus Middle School and we'll be representing Unit 4, question number 2, and our teacher is Miss Christy Hall.
My name is Caden Ray. I'm also presenting Unit 4, question 2. My teacher is also Miss Christy Hall.
My name is Riley Didcott.
All right. Thank you so much. And as you mentioned, you are Unit 4 and we are doing question 2 today. So let's get started. If a law has been properly passed by the lawmaking branches of a democratic government, why should judges have the power to declare it unconstitutional? Do you agree or disagree with Robert Dahl? Why? What is judicial review and why is it controversial? What has been the impact of judicial review on American society? Once the Supreme Court has decided that a law is unconstitutional, what power, if any, do the people have to change the Constitution? You may begin.
Robert Dahl once asked, if a law has been properly passed by the lawmaking branches of a democratic government, why should judges have the power to declare it unconstitutional? Today, we'll be talking about the judiciary branch of the government, how the judiciary branch of the government must follow the laws they are enforcing on the American people. The authority of the judiciary is to find actions of the other branches of government that are illegal and thus unenforceable is known as the judicial review. For example, if Congress passes a bill prohibiting publications from publishing articles such as political issues, judges would have the power to decide if that law is that law is illegal because it contradicts the First Amendment.
We take judicial oversight for granted nowadays. In reality, it is one of the most distinguishing features of American government. Almost every day, judicial rulings are handed down around the nation declaring state and federal regulations unconstitutional. In recent years, these regulations have addressed issues such as gender marriage prohibitions, voter ID laws, firearm limits, surveillance services run by the government, and abortion laws. Judicial review helps with many things. One of these is abolishing bad laws. The official definition of judicial review is reviewing by the U.S. Supreme Court of the constitutional validity of a legislative act. So judicial review is a way that our Supreme Court can look over the laws and decide if they are just or unjust. If it is unjust, the law will be considered unconstitutional and we do not have to follow that law. Judicial review created in a court case, Marbury versus Madison, 1803. Many people believe that judicial review is controversial. The reason this is that some may believe the law is constitutional and others will believe that it's unconstitutional. So some people love it while others hate it. That is why it's controversial.
Judicial review has had a huge impact on American society. The reason this is because judicial review takes out American laws that are unconstitutional. It helps the quality of life for us, the American people. So, for instance, if there is a law that says you cannot vote if you are disabled, that would be breaking their constitutional rights. So judicial review can look over this law and see if it's constitutional. So if they were to look harder, they would see that everybody can vote because they get this right from the 26th Amendment. So the only people who cannot vote is if they are an American citizen or if they are under 18 years old. This is why judicial review helps with the quality of life for the American people. You asked the question, so if the Supreme Court decides if the law is unjust, what could they do to take the law out? Supreme Courts do many things to take the law out. First, they will use judicial review to determine if the law is unconstitutional. If so, they will abolish the law. Judicial review was created in the 10th Amendment, and this is how we can abolish unconstitutional laws. And this is called the amendment process.
Okay, was that the end of your testimony?
Yes, we're finished.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure because I saw Riley looking the other way. I thought maybe she may have had some computer issues or something. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. You mentioned in your statements that judicial oversight is something that we take for granted in our American society. Could you provide some examples of how we take that for granted and maybe some court cases that show that?
Well, one reason being is because our judicial review has a very powerful impact on like our three branches of government. If we did not have the judicial branch of part of our government, then we wouldn't have a way to like look at the laws and see if they're fit for our country and fit for the making in society and how it's going to get better. So in like defense, we do take it for granted because if we did not have it, then we would just have random laws out here not being fit for our country right at this moment.
I would like to add on to that. There was a court case where they used judicial review. It was for some middle school students that wore black armbands during the Vietnam War. They used judicial review to see if that was something that they could do in school or not.
Okay, good. You have mentioned, you've given us a couple of examples of laws that you suggest would be subject to judicial review. Let's say that a legislature does pass a law that says you can't vote if you're disabled. How do we go about getting judicial review of that? Is it something the court automatically gets? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, in my opinion, I believe we would go back to our first source, which is the Constitution, and read through that to see where we would get insight on how to handle that situation.
If no one challenged that law, would it still be unconstitutional? And how would we know that?
We have the Constitution, different amendments, and the Bill of Rights, which is more of a guarantee that these cannot be broken. And even if no one challenges them, it's still not representing the American government how we made it.
So do you think that the Supreme Court justices should be elected by the people, or should they be appointed as they are by the president and confirmed by the Senate?
I believe that should be a mixture of both, honestly. Because if it's a mixture of both, that means the American people could do that. And if the president would also have he could have more say so, I guess. And the Supreme Court also has to say if they are a good one or not.
I would like to add on with Kaden saying I also agree, but in an extent, I feel like it should first be a vote with the people, like the people should vote and then add on to go to the higher source, which is the president, to see his opinion on it and see if he believes that the people's choice was adequate.
All right, thank you. So let's keep talking about the idea of justices and how they're elected. They serve a life term on the bench. Do you feel that that's appropriate?
I do not feel that a term for life is appropriate because there can be different reasons why they need to, why they shouldn't or need to stop being a justice, such as corruption, bribery, and other things that can interfere with their career.
Okay, the Supreme Court the judiciary is the only branch of government that doesn't have constitutional qualifications. To be a member of the House or the Senate or president, you have to be of a certain age and a certain amount of residents. Each one of you right now is constitutionally qualified to be a federal judge. You could be appointed to the Supreme Court tomorrow. If you do, by the way, if you can get yourself appointed to be a federal judge before the end, next year or something, I'll be in touch with your teacher to make sure you get an A in this class. But should there be qualifications for being a federal judge like we have for other constitutional offices?
I believe there should be qualifications because putting anybody in a serious point of authority like that could lead to certain like complications with the Supreme Court and other factors in the government. So I believe certain qualifications like how long have you done this or do you have any experience with this type of work would be something said to abide by.
So you mentioned in your prepared remarks that the case of Marbury versus Madison was where judicial review was established. Can you talk a little bit about the facts of the Marbury case? Like what happened so that the case was brought? Well, could you talk a little bit maybe about why we have judicial review and why you think that it was something that was important to establish in that case?
Judicial review was initially created there's like a few unconstitutional laws that could pretty much not help the quality of life for the American people. And judicial review was created to protect the American citizens to help with the quality of life so everybody would be equal.
It also helps with checks and balances because it helps balance it out, like the name says, since the judiciary branch can check over the legislative branch. Otherwise, like without some of the power that judiciary review has, then the judicial branch is a lot less powerful than it may seem.
All right, so let's continue with your thoughts about creating laws for an equal society. Can you give us some examples of some court cases that deal with that? And what was its impact? I can rephrase the question for you. So are there any court cases that help make life better for some people in our country? And if so, what were those court cases? What were the court cases about?
One would probably be Brown versus Board of Education because of how a school segment caused such an impact on somebody's like life's family and how it impacted going back to the Constitution and how it set the standards for kind of society's points today.
Time.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you for your testimony today. We appreciated listening to you. I like your conversation about judicial review, and you talked about how judicial oversight could be something that we take for granted. And I like that comment. I wish we had some more time to speak on that. You mentioned surveillance. You mentioned the issue of abortion. You mentioned so many different things in there that we just didn't have enough time to unpack. And I wish we had some more time to speak with you on it. I like that you were able to reference the Constitution. You talked about the 26th Amendment and how it relates to judicial review. You also mentioned the Tinker case in your follow-up questions, which shows that you understand how judicial review has played a role in helping society. I wish we had some more time to talk too about the qualifications as well. You did mention that there should be some experience with the job, and I'd like to know, what kind of experience would you be looking for in the justice? And hoping that they would make the best decisions for the American people. Again, great job, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you very much for the discussion today. You're right. You talked about the Tinker case, which was the case having to do with the armbands. It's more important for you to understand the substance than the case name. You didn't mention the case name, but you dealt with the important part. It was what it was about. That's one of the reasons this program is so important, because that case is not the exact case itself, but the issue continues to be litigated. The Supreme Court heard a case this past week about how much protection do you as a student have for your freedom of speech from your school. And the high watermark is that Tinker case that you mentioned. It's now being litigated again. And so the good news is that with your knowledge of and study of the Constitution, you are much better equipped than the average person in the population to understand and deal with those kind of issues. So thanks for all the work you put in. Thanks for the work that your teacher has done this year, and keep up that work. We need citizens like you. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to echo the comments of my colleagues. I thought that you laid out a really good argument. You started out with the definitions of judicial review. You gave some good examples, and particularly good examples of areas of policy where the court has stepped in with the judicial review. And I like the way that you set out the fact that judicial review, while it's not in the Constitution, has become a distinguishing feature of the U.S. government. So I thought that you started out by kind of setting up the case for judicial review quite well. I also appreciated your mention of the Tinker case. And I thought that you had some good answers to some of the questions. When I asked about, well, do you think we should have judges that are elected by the people? There's a very creative answer to that, which was the idea of having a mixture of both, where the people would vote, but then the president might have to, kind of take an evaluation of the people's choice. I mean, you could see how this might actually be a way that, presidents might come up with like a short list or something of candidates that they might like. There was an interesting perspective on it. We started to get into the idea of term limits or terms for life. You were concerned about, kind of bribery and corruption, and then getting into the protections. I thought it was really helpful that you talked about the checks and balances that judicial review has on the other branches of government. So I thought it was a really good and interesting conversation, and thanks for participating in the National Invitational.